which is the last chapter. And last week, we had finished up with verses 8 and 9 in chapter 4. And I'm going to just back up to those and not say much about them, but they are such good words. We need to see them and hear them and read them a lot. He says, now I don't know which I want to do. I think I'm going to wear my glasses. If I get at the right distance, it comes out. Chapter 4, verse 8. Finally, by the way, this is not finally. He's going to talk some more. Finally, brothers and sisters, whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Whatever you've learned from or received or heard from me or seen in me, put it into practice, the implication being the good things, and the God of peace will be with you. Those are really, really good words. True, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, praiseworthy. And he says, think about those kinds of things. And I'm going to actually come back to that here in a little bit in another area, but those are, if you got nothing else out of Philippians, that right there should be enough. And as I've told you, Philippians is the letter of joy and rejoicing. He says it over and over and over again. So let's jump down to chapter 4, verse 10, which is almost at the end. He has one more two more things that are good, but one is really good. I rejoiced greatly in the Lord that at last you renewed your concern for me. Now, he's talking about money they sent him. Indeed, you were concerned, but you had no opportunity to show it. You remember, they couldn't just send a check by mail. They had to actually send real money by real people. So he's actually saying you didn't have a chance to do it, but thanks. You've now done it. I'm not saying this because I am in need, even though he was, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through Him who gives me strength. I think I'm going to stop right there because I really want to talk about that stuff right there. He goes on to talk about how they were giving and being good to him and took care of him and everything. And he even mentions that down in verse 17, not that I desire your gifts, what I desire is that more be credited to your account. And basically he's saying what Jesus said, it's more blessed to give than to receive. You're giving these gifts, I can use them, but it's not I who am being so blessed here. You are being blessed because you gave. Your generosity comes back to you in the form of blessing, as Christ said. It's more blessed to give than to receive. So he continues to talk about that as he gets to toward the end of it, and then he does his final greetings, which I'm not going to deal with. I'm going to get right back up here in the section where he says, I am not saying this because I'm in need, for I have learned to be content, whatever the circumstances. I know how it is to be in need and know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through Him who gives me strength. He's not talking about a secret to how to be content. It's easy to read that in there. He's not saying, I have found a secret that allows me to be content. He's saying, I have found the secret, essentially, of a happy life. And the secret is to be content. That's what he's actually saying there. Because if he's saying, I found out the secret on how to be content, he never tells you how to do it. So what he's saying is I have discovered that contentment is basically what makes you happy. It's what gives you a good life, which gives you strength in life. And he makes it clear that he's largely here talking about material things. Well, at least as the example, hungry, filled, having plenty, not having plenty. That's physical stuff to a large extent. And contentment actually goes beyond just that sort of thing. But he says, if you can be content, you've sort of discovered the secret to life, the happiness of life. And I guess I want to talk about that additional in more detail this morning. By the way, I had a boss at Duke Power Company who used to say, I've been rich and I've been poor. Rich is better. I agree, but that doesn't mean that you are discontent or unhappy if you're not rich. If you're a happy person or a content person, more money will make you more content and more happy. Guess what happens if you are an unhappy and negative person before the money comes? You get more unhappy and more negative. Money and goods enhance what you are. It doesn't make you anything. It enhances whatever you are. Have you ever seen a filthy rich person that was so unhappy they couldn't stand life almost? I mean, unhappy people, if they have lots of money, don't do anything but worry about their money. And thievery and people stealing my money away from me. Happy people are just happy. They're not giving money away and enjoying life. And, they invite people over for the weekend to ride in their boat, to come to their private pool and to have parties in their houses. And they give money away. I mean, these are happy people. People say, well, yeah, it's easy to be happy when you got millions of dollars. No, it's not. It has nothing to do with it. If you're unhappy and a discontent person, no amount of money on earth is going to make you happy. All you have to do is look to all the lottery winners. 90-something% of them will tell you they wish to God they had never won the lottery because they were not happy to begin with, and it made it worse. Those few that were already happy who happened to come into goods and money, they just get ecstatic. I'm so happy. I have money to give away. Look at this. That's how it works. So Paul says, I am content. I'm a content person. So he's happy when he has a lot of stuff, and he's happy when he doesn't have a lot of stuff. And so the goal here should be to achieve contentment. Somehow achieve contentment. So the first question you need to ask yourself is, am I content? A fair fraction of people would say, when I think about it, not really. I'm not really content. Or I'm kind of content. So you have to ask that question to yourself, am I content? And there are a couple other verses besides this one in Philippians. Hebrews 13:5 says, keep your lives free from the love of money. Didn't say money. The love of money, and be content with what you have. John the Baptist told, the soldiers came up to John the Baptist while he was teaching, and they said, what should we do? These are Roman soldiers. They go, Mr. Preacher, what should we do? And he gives them some advice, and he ends it with, be content with your wages. They didn't get a lot of money. He says, be content with your wages. Good morning, Miss Charlestine. How are you this morning, dear? You still here, right? I'm not too good, Jim. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, baby, but you are here, and you make the red outfit look beautiful. You make it look good. Well, I'm sorry you don't feel good, dear. I wish you could.
I feel okay. I just feel.
There you go. I'm so sorry. Okay, so he says to be content, and Hebrews alludes to the keeping your lives free from the love of money. If we go on down, let's look at, for example, 1 Timothy 6. Verses 3 and following. And he's talking about false teachers. And he says, these are the things you should teach and insist on. If anyone teaches otherwise and does not agree to the sound instruction of our Lord Jesus and to godly teaching, they are conceited and understand nothing. They have an unhealthy interest in controversies and quarrels about words that result in envy, strife, malicious talk, evil suspicions, and constant friction. between people of corrupt mind who have been robbed of the truth and who think that godliness is a means to financial gain. Okay, I'm not going to deal with that. But godliness, here's the verse, but godliness with contentment is great gain. Godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. Food and clothing. Be content. If you can't eat and don't have clothes, okay, it's all right to be a little stressed, all right? Those who want to get rich, that's the people who are focusing on money and riches. That doesn't mean if you'd like to have money, that makes you a bad person. No, this is people whose focus is to get rich. Those who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge people into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is a root of all kinds of evil. Some people eager for money have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. So he's saying, do not focus on, and you've seen people like this, all they're interested in is how can I make more money? And there's nothing wrong with wanting to have having ambition and wanting to advance in the company or wherever you are or your business and to increase your profits. There's nothing wrong with that. But if that's all you focus on, or if that is the primary focus of your life, you're missing the boat completely. And of course, we should try to provide for, Paul talked about the guys that had been stealing. He says, don't do that anymore. Get out there and get a job, work with your hands, make money. And he doesn't say so that you can provide for yourself, although that's implied. He says so that you will have something to give to others, to help them. The implication, of course, is that so you can take care of your own needs, but do so in such a way that you have money left over to give to other people and take care of their needs. He pushes it past just looking after yourself and your family. He also said anyone who won't provide for his own family is worse than an unbeliever. So there you go. You gotta get out there and make a living if you can. You should try to carry your family through and provide for them, but don't be consumed with the collection of money and goods. So those are a few verses that refer to being content. And I'll hit one or two more here. But what I did is I sat down and I said, what can I do to achieve contentment? What are specific things that I can do to achieve contentment? Because it's easy to say, I want to be content. I also want to lose 12 pounds that I gained over the past 4 weeks. I want to do a lot of things. But as I've told some people in the past, that's a goal. I want to do this or achieve this or accomplish this. That's a goal. That's nothing until you say, and here is the plan by which I will achieve that goal. So the first thing you do is say, I would like to do this. Then you say, how am I going to do this? And there's one more step after that. Start the plan. I would like to retire at age 55. Good goal. Good goal. How am I going to do that? Well, I need to invest a large fraction of my income over the next 40 years and in good stuff, and that will allow me to achieve retirement at age 55 if I put enough of it aside. And you have to actually calculate what that number is going to be or have somebody do it for you. How much do I need? How much do I need to put in every year and that kind of thing to probably achieve that goal. And then the next thing you have to do is say, okay, I got my paycheck. Now I got to go set up an account and start investing and then do that. If you fail in any of those, you never achieve the goal. If your plan for retirement is to win the lottery, you are not going to achieve your goal. Or if your idea of a good retirement investment is those commemorative NASCAR plates, you are not going to achieve your goal. You have to have a goal, a good plan, and then implement that plan. So here's what we're doing. Our goal is I wish to be content. That's the goal. So the plan is to come up with things that will achieve contentment for you. And then the third thing to do is to do those things. Otherwise, you will not achieve contentment. Nothing happens usually good by accident. Once in a blue moon, happy accidents occur. More often than not, accidents are destructive. More often than not. So don't expect to achieve your goals by accident, please. That's not how that works. People talk about when my ship comes in. What are you doing to bring a ship in? Ships don't just come in laden with gold with your name on it. Oh, by the way, you do get that on the internet all the time. I win $850,000 US nearly every week on the internet. Unfortunately, it's not mine. I don't get to have it. They're trying to rip me off. So that's not going to happen. Okay, how can I achieve contentment? In about 30 minutes, I came up with more than 20 things. And you can probably come up with more if you do it. So I'm going to try to move fairly quickly. We've got about 22 minutes left here, and I've got about 23 or 24 of these things that came to mind. One of the first and most important things you can do, and these are not particularly in order, but I kind of tried to put them in some kind of order, but after a while they start folding in on themselves, so forgive me if I don't have them in the right logical order to your mind. But one of the most important things that you can remember, and nearly all of these are in some way mentioned in Philippians, and certainly mentioned in many other places. But so you'll probably recognize them, and even if you can't think of an exact verse for it, you'll go, oh yeah, that would help, yeah, that'd be good. Okay, first one, be grateful and thankful in all things. In other words, don't be constantly ungrateful and thankless in all things. If you are ungrateful, you will never be happy, ever. Ever. So be grateful. Look for opportunities to be grateful and thankful. I think I've mentioned before, when you get up in the morning, think of 5 things you're grateful for or thankful for, other than the 5 you thought of yesterday. If you can't think of 5 new things that you're grateful for every day until you start forgetting which things you thought of previously, if you can't do that, there's something wrong. When I thought about that, I said, what am I grateful for? The first thing that popped into my mind, you wouldn't believe it, was the fact that I now have comfortable shoes and socks I really like. That was the first thing that popped into my mind. Wow, that's not even important. But are you grateful that you can still walk? Are you grateful for having people who love you? Are you grateful that you have a job or that you're retired and have sufficient to live on? Are you grateful for whatever level of health you've got? I have rotten eyes. I have tinnitus really loud in my ears. I have peripheral neuropathy from the knees down. I'm getting old, but I am so grateful that I can still get up and walk around and do stuff and go places. So grateful that I can do that. And even if I have to walk with a cane, I'm still mobile. Be grateful for what you have and thankful, and express it to yourself and to God. Express your gratefulness. Don't grumble or complain, even if you feel like you should. Don't be a grumbler and a complainer. There are people who will they'll go to a restaurant, and somebody is waiting on them hand and foot, and their tea glass is half empty. Now, different people like their tea handled different ways. I like for mine to be refilled periodically before it goes completely empty. Other people get totally bent out of shape because, it messed up the sugar or the sweetener to tea ratio, and now I don't know what to do. Boy, is that a terrible thing or what? And they'll grumble about it. And they'll leave them a lower tip because she did my tea wrong. You didn't tell them how you wanted it done. When they delivered it, say, I want my tea refilled only when it's empty, please. You can do that. But they want you to guess and figure out so that they can grumble. They won't admit to that, but they enjoy the grumbling. Don't grumble and complain. Don't focus so much on getting material things, which is what Paul was talking about specifically here. Don't let your life's focus be on the next better car. that you want, or that bigger TV. There's nothing wrong with having a nice car, nothing wrong with having a nice TV, nothing wrong with having a nice house, nice clothes, but you need to kind of be satisfied. And if the opportunity and situation comes up, fine, good, but don't let that be your goal in life to accumulate more things. There's a sad joke out there that says the guy that has the most toys when he dies wins. That is not true. And you've heard that kind of, whoever has the most toys when they die wins. That is not a true statement. Don't let that be your focus on getting more and more material things, because you'll never be satisfied. I can guarantee that. I started out some years ago, I decided I wanted a hobby of collecting Hot Wheels cars. I went insane collecting Hot Wheels cars. And I was traveling around the country, and every time I got into a town, I would go look at Hot Wheels cars at all the Walmarts and all the toy stores and everything. In fairly short order, I ended up with in excess of 700 Hot Wheels cars. That's a lot, in case you don't know. And I took them all out of the blister packs and put them up in lucite cases in a bedroom in our house, in my craft room. I hardly ever notice them. I'm trying to figure out a way to give them away to my grandchildren in such a way that it will work out. But things don't bring happiness. They bring momentary enjoyment, but they don't have lasting happiness associated with them. So don't focus so much on material things. Do focus on getting spiritual things, like the fruits of the Spirit. Love, peace, joy, patience, long-suffering, those kinds of things. Focus on trying to get the spiritual things, like the fruits of the Spirit. Pray a lot, especially prayers of thanksgiving and gratitude. Don't let God be your cosmic Santa Claus so much. Let Him be the one you thank for all the joys and blessings that you have in life. And if you're thankful, you will probably be less grabby and asking for stuff if you're just thankful. And He might just give you some of those things that you ask for if you're thankful enough. So pray a lot. Listen to God and act on His guidance. People say, you talk to God? Well, yeah, I pray. I'm talking to God. He talks back. Not quite in the same way I talk to Him. Have you ever felt a tug to do something good and maybe ignored it? Or did it? Where do you think that comes from? Oh, it's my conscience. Where do you think your conscience gets its information? Some people, the Bible talks about this, people whose consciences have been destroyed. But your conscience is one of your best guides, especially if you've been steeped in the Lord in the past. He molds your conscience into things that you don't even know He's doing. People, oh, that's weird sounding. No. The Spirit operates on you. Especially as you pray, the more you pray, the more the Spirit reacts to that and deals with you. You should be reaching a point, if you're grown and been grown for quite some time, you should be reaching a point in your life where you go, I know God would want me to do this. And then the question comes up, will you do it? So we need to listen to God's guidance and act on that guidance if we want to be content. We need to watch for and acknowledge the presence of God. And sometimes quite often you don't know, but it's best to always see Him as being present with you at all times. Jesus apparently felt the presence of God 100%, because when He was on the cross, He screams out, my God, why have you forsaken me? God was gone, and He knew it. We need to, even if you're not sure, we need to view our lives as being in the presence of God and in His care. That doesn't mean you'll never get sick or never have disappointments or anything. What do you think Jesus would have said if He had thought, every time I have persecution or trial or trouble, where is God? Most of His life would have been spent thinking, where is God? Because everybody hated Him, it seems like, that of the enemies and everything. He was constantly fighting people, and then they just killed Him on top of that. But watch for and acknowledge God's presence. Keep busy doing good things. What did your grandmother tell you about an idle mind? What is an idle mind? It's the devil's workshop, right? That's not in the Bible, by the way, but it should be. Don't just sit with your hands folded all the time. Get out, do stuff, get busy. And I would suggest to you that you do that based on the next several things that I'm going to list here. It says keep busy doing good things. And good things can be cutting your grass, okay? It doesn't have to be some noble, religious-related thing. Just doing your job, doing stuff that's useful and needful and that you can take a little bit of comfort and pride in. Work makes you feel like you're worth something. That's why being out of work is bad because you don't get money coming in, but it's even worse because it depresses you, not because of the money, but you begin to lose your feeling of self-worth. Nothing makes, ladies, I can't speak for you because I'm not a woman, but nothing makes a man feel better than to know he is providing for his family. That makes us feel so good when we are providing for our families. And so work, and especially doing good work, builds your self-esteem and makes you feel better. Be unselfish. That's the phrase from the Bible, love one another. Agape. Agape means to be unselfish, to love others, even to your inconvenience. Actually take an interest in other people's lives. I watch people sometimes in Walmart, and if you don't get out of the way, they will absolutely run over you with their cart because they don't even know you're in there. That's not true of everybody. Some people are very, very considerate and concerned, but there are people who will run over you in Walmart because you are in their way. You have no right to be there. You know, take an interest in other people's lives. Yesterday we were in I guess it's called Alpharetta, north of Atlanta. And we were getting our biannual, every 2-year family Christmas pictures done. And it was over with, and people were still wasting my time. So I went out and sat in the atrium of the place because we were going to go to the food court a little later. And I saw this guy in pennies. He was a janitor, I guess is what it was. He had one of those carts, and he had a broom, and he was sweeping up stuff and everything. And I thought, I wonder how he feels about his job. He was really doing a very good job of getting every little thing up and everything. And I said, I got to go tell him. I got to. People say, that's weird. Just go talk to a janitor. You're crazy. Yeah, I am. I know it. I walked up to him and I said, sir, that's the first thing you do is acknowledge that the person is a worthy human being. Sir, not hey, Sir, there are some jobs that are just not really all that valuable, but yours is. Your job is valuable because you keep people from walking through trash in this store. It makes the store nicer looking and everything. Your job is valuable. And you need to look at your job. Find a way to see the value of the work that you do, whether it's a profession or something else, and then look for that in other people, wherever you can. Thank the bathroom attendants for keeping the bathroom not so gross, because if they didn't do their jobs, you'd walk in and go, I'm not going in here, I'm getting out of here, this is just bad, They work. There was even a song about it. She works hard for the money. I think they were talking about waitresses in the song, she works hard for the money, maybe bathroom attendants too. Those people are working hard. They're serving you. And you need to acknowledge it and think of their lives. They have lives too. And so that goes back to that grumbling and complaining. Don't come down on people who don't perfectly serve you, Be a little bit more understanding of that. So take an interest in others' lives, and beyond that, serve other people. We are taught that so much in the Bible. Be a servant. In fact, Philippians talked about it. He said, have the same mind that Christ did. Even though he was the Son of God, and could have done anything he wanted to. He chose to be a servant. And you go do that same thing. You go be a servant to other people. By being a servant to other people, you are unselfish. You take an interest in other people's lives. You're doing good work. That's getting about 6 of the things that we've talked about so far, if you just serve other people. Be a servant to other people. Enrich their lives, and that will come back to you so much. If nothing ever happens other than just the fact that you serve, that will enrich your life. Service is kind of its own reward, just like contentment. Striving for contentment is its own reward. You know, saying, what else will it get me besides contentment? What else do you want? Contentment is its own reward. Service is its own reward. Serve others. Be generous to other people. These are things you can do with regard to other people, it seems like. I'm in a whole clutch of these things about, being unselfish, taking interest in others, serving others. Be generous to others, both with your time, your talents, and your money, to the extent that you can. Paul talked about one group of people who were poor, but yet he said, you gave and gave and gave beyond your means. You still did it. And he praised them for it. Giving of your time and talent and money in service to others, or in general service to humanity or to your church or whatever, this is another thing that will give you happiness and contentment in life. Always wanting other people to serve you will never make you happy, ever. In fact, it'll just make you sadder and more bitter and everything because you're not getting all the service you deserve. And you've seen people like that. Serve others. Be generous to others. We're just over halfway through my list, by the way. By the way, if you are interested in getting a copy of this list, you may or may not be, but if you are, send me an email. I'm in the church phone book, both online and on the paper copies. It's just my last name, Lochamy at AOL.com. Send me an email, and I will send this list to you if you would like to have it so that you could refer to it on occasion. Do not ask me. Don't walk up to me and say, Joe, would you send me a copy of that list? I guarantee you I will forget within 30 seconds that you asked me. That's why I'm asking you to send me an email. That way I'll have a paper copy of something that keeps me focused. I have a focus problem. Be generous. Don't condemn others. Rather forgive them. Be a forgiving person. Especially if they've really not done anything to you. Especially in every case. But we will condemn people that we don't even know. We don't even know what we're doing, and we'll condemn them. Don't do that. Don't condemn people that you don't know, and be much more kind. That's another. I forgot about that. That's another one. It's better to be kind than to be right. I didn't have that in my list. Try to be kind, and always everybody acknowledge right. Just go. Yeah, you could be right. I don't think so, but you could. It's better to be kind than to be right. I had to practice that a lot over the weekend, or over this past week. When you get all your children and grandchildren together, sometimes it can cause stress if you're in too small a space. And you should always strive to be kind rather than right. Don't condemn others, rather forgive them. See the good in others and in situations. You can always see the bad. It's really easy to see. It's really easy to decide that everything is bad and not worth anything. There are people like that who live their entire lives just thinking everything is terrible all the time, no matter how good it gets. Choose to see the good. Let's see if I can say the old phrase. There's so much bad in the best of us and so much good in the worst of us that it hardly behooves us to say anything ill about the rest of us. That's close to what I've heard. In other words, even the worst of people have something in their lives. You may not be able to find it, but they have something in their lives. Okay, I'm going to give you a horrible example. Hitler was a doting uncle. He loved his nieces and nephews. He loved his mother. He invented the Volkswagen. And he was a horrible person. Insane, monstrous. But yet, and he was a fantastic speaker. Okay, I'm not justifying anything bad he did. I'm just saying he did some good stuff too, but that doesn't justify anything bad he did. And I can take the best person you ever knew and come up with something negative about them. One of the greatest heroes of our country is Dr. Martin Luther King. He had some problems, personal problems, but that's not important. He did great things that we should admire him for. Isn't that interesting how I can choose? Abraham Lincoln was a great president. He did some things he shouldn't have done. He withheld the Emancipation Proclamation until it was politically convenient to do it. That wasn't good. He should have done it sooner. But he was a great president, one of our best ever. I used to tell the boys and girls at the boys' club, most of whom were African American, slavery was horrible. Shouldn't have happened. But your great probably, grandparents blessed you. Their suffering and sadness was your blessing. Because instead of living in Kenya and running through the woods in a loincloth and trying to keep from getting eaten by lions, here you are. What a blessing. Find the positive wherever you possibly can. That doesn't mean you have to ignore the negative side, but focus toward the positive side wherever you can. Those are crazy examples, but I'm trying to be strong here in my examples so that it doesn't go unnoticed. Try to find the good wherever you can. It's okay to think something is bad, but try to find something good about it wherever you can. So see the good in others and in situations. Don't live with guilt. Forgive yourself. Now, it's easy for us to ignore our weaknesses. Don't do that. You need to be very self-aware of what your problems are. I'm pretty self-aware of my problems. Most of you know that I know. That doesn't mean I've got them under control, but I am very self-aware. But I'm not going to dwell on my negatives and never be able to move forward because of my negatives. I need to forgive myself and let myself move forward. If you've got something in your background or something that happened in your family that causes guilt and resentment and things like that, you need to get past that. You got to move forward. Even Disney, that was his famous saying, keep moving forward. That was his motto, keep moving forward. Even made a movie about it called The Robinsons, Meet the Robinsons. It was animated. Keep moving forward. There's a psychological, a psychiatric philosophy called REBT, Rational Emotive Behavior Therapy. And it says you can never have a better childhood than you had. You can never have a better marriage than you had. You can never have a better career than you had. You can never have better families than you had, because that's in the past and you don't get to go back and redo it, unless, of course, you're 25. You might be able to redo some of those. But most of us are in our 60s and 70s, except some of you who are still quite young back there. We can't go back and redo our childhood. So stressing over what happened when you were a child, you need to get past that. You need to forgive yourself and you need to forgive those who wronged you and move forward. Move forward. Keep moving forward. Don't live with guilt. Choose joy. This is a big thing in Philippians. Choose joy and rejoice rather than sadness. Be peaceful rather than contentious. I'm going to have to hurry. Time's up. Don't let anxiety and worry rule you. Think positively rather than negatively. Fill your mind with good thoughts, as Philippians, we just read that other stuff earlier in Philippians. Keep your eyes on Jesus. Hold on to your faith in God at all costs. Stand firm. Paul was about to die in 2 Timothy 4, verses 7 and 8. He says, I have fought That is, he hasn't won. He fought the good fight. I have finished, not won. I have finished the race. I have kept, not excelled. I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me in that day, and not only to me, but to also all those who have longed for his appearing. So, my benediction for you today is, may you fight the good fight. May you finish the course. May you keep the faith and be content throughout your life and achieve the crown of righteousness which is laid up for you in heaven. Through Christ our Lord. Amen.